fan drive on, and the trick was to back it out far enough because the heads were hitting a boss and they wouldn't go in. So if you backed it out, installed new heater hoses. There's 1, 2, and then the bypass back there, and got rid of all the Corbins, replacing with screw clamps. Found a fan belt that will fit. The 36 is what you want. You order from Rock Auto, you get ones that are too short. You get the 34s. Just get a 36. And a power steering belt, we got that new. You get those from Rock Auto, they're right. And have air conditioning belts on order, should arrive Monday. What are you doing today, Bob? Well, we are going to button up the 65300L. What the heck are these things? That is the alternator belt tension tool. That is the power steering belt tension tool. Torque wrench and instruction sheet. We have just installed new hoses, and we're putting on new belts and radiator hoses, and we've got a new fan clutch in there. We're getting ready for Buffalo. So we will first tighten up the alternator belts. This comes right out of the factory service manual, and if you want these tools, I make them. And here we're putting new belts on. Alternator with AC, you want 60 foot-pounds. So the tool goes on like that. You hook up your torque wrench. I got it set for 60. We will torque, and then we tighten the bolt, and then the belt tension ought to be to factory specs. It's not something I can do while I'm holding a camera, so zam, it is done. So what you would have seen is I'm putting enough tension on the tool to get to my set point that sets the belts, and then you go tighten that little one down there, and now you've got properly tensioned belts. Wasn't that easy? It's called the alternator belt tension tool. Available at all fine stores. Actually, available at Bob's, and that's about it. This is a 65, but it will go to any of the other 413s with the AC alternator set up like this. 15680. I got these from Rock Auto. They fit fine. See, look, they're at tension, and look at that. You're in midway of the adjustment slot. So this is one of the AC belts that I took off. Can you see the edge there? You see how it was wearing into something? Turns out the way they positioned the Corbin clip on the lower radiator hose, you know, way down back in there, it was such that, here, I get it. See? One of these would now and then get far enough out, or the belt would vibrate such that it could wear. And you wouldn't have probably ever seen it. Well, whatever. Anyway, no Corbins for Bob. These are all screw clamps. And I'll tell you, Corbins on those lower radiator hoses are just the kiss of death. They're so hard to install. And of course, I hate Corbins because they can crack and they won't fall off. I've had these little buggers and they will crack right here, but there'll be enough of the ring left so they're still on the hose and they look like they're good. But until you actually take them off or look, you can't see the crack. Well, gee whiz, I am not going to have loss of coolant and overheating problems because of a stupid Corbin clamp. Strong opinion may follow. The next belt to install is the power steering belt. And this is the power steering tool. The specification for power steering, 45 foot-pounds, new or old. Power steering this is that floating type. And it's very easy to adjust it backwards. So what we're going to do is put this tool on here. And we are going to tilt the whole thing this way. You would think you would take it this way. No! It goes on here and you tilt it up and then you catch your bolt down there. So, there's the tool on. And I have it set for 45, so I will be running it up until she gets a click, and then I will tighten that bolt. But you see what the belt's done? It's gone tight. That's what you want. Of course, can't do it two hands. I'll be back. And there you have the belt set to 45. That is that nut that I couldn't really see. By the way, I took off the power bolts that I just tightened because they run right here and it impedes access to this bolt. But I can rethread these and torque them back up in 2 seconds. I keep forgetting that it makes sense to do the power steering first, then the air conditioning bolts. But there you have your pump set to the right tension so it'll float. And of course, don't forget to tighten that one and move on. So there we have the L with the new belts. By the way, this power steering adjuster bolt down there, yeah, that one. That is a 3/4. This is a 63, and this power steering adjuster bolt, that one right there, that's a 9/16. So you can find them both ways. And another minor thing on these brackets, the earlier brackets, they have, and we're talking about this top bolt right now. This one right here. The older brackets have a nut on that bolt, The newer brackets have that nut welded on, which is nice. It gives you, you know, a little easier to adjust. We have an issue with this 65. I put on new upper and lower radiator hoses and heater hoses. So I had the system drain as far as you possibly can. It's pretty much a 4-gallon system, give or take a quart. And I got 3 gallons out of it, which is about normal. So I put the hoses on. I was only able to get 1 gallon back in, and it would not take anymore. The coolant came up in the tank, and you simply couldn't put any more in. Well, what I have is an air pocket under the thermostat, and there's no way for it to come out. This thermostat, my guess is it does not have a bleed in it. So one of the tricks you can do when you have this kind of problem is you can crack a heater hose. Well, that will work on a car before this. Because the heater is above the level of the thermostat. See the difference? So air naturally rising, you can crack one of these heater hoses somewhere and you can bleed the air out. But 1965 was a redesign, and if you look, there is the connections for the heater, and you can see they are pretty much at the same level of the thermostat. In any case, cracking one of these lines, all you get is coolant. So, on air-conditioned cars, any of these RBs, there's your thermostat housing, and you've got to contend with the air conditioning compressor. There'll be 2 bolts, one right about here, and one over in here. This one you can get at. This one you have to work at. We tried running it briefly to see if maybe the impeller action on the water pump might get things circulating. We got a little bit of heat. You can tell by the valve covers got a little bit warm. But both heater hoses were cold, which means you're not getting any circulation. You take the cap off and the fluid is just sitting there. You're not getting any circulation. It's almost like you didn't have the water pump hooked up. It's that doggone air pocket just stopping things, and because it's under the thermostat, hot water is not going to get to the bottom of the thermostat to tell it that it needs to open. This is one of those high capacity thermostats. And, oh, well, I found it. You see the light right there? See that little rib? See that? That is a vent. Here's a new thermostat that just arrived. Yeah. See this little piece over here? See, it moves around. That's your vent. This is the kind of action you want to see when the thermostat's open. Visible circulation. Hose is warm, warm, warm. A-okay. I guess I didn't tell you, and you're probably wondering, how do we fix the airlock? Well, you know, sometimes all you need to do is bring over new parts and say, if you don't behave, I'm gonna put in new parts. So this actually fixed itself I let it sit, and it took, well, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 days, and the radiator level dropped, the air pocket came out. So just sitting was the answer. Sometimes you do get that lucky.